I like to shoot some of my video outside because I have a nice big backyard.
Oh, yes.
Sometimes my neighbors come home and I'm outside, and I've created some kind of wacky videos before of me doing kind of silly stuff. And I am sure that they are so confused as to what my job is. Hey everyone, welcome to the S.O.B Marketing Podcast, where we celebrate the S.O.B that you are, and if you haven't figured it out yet, we mean small-owned business. We don't mean S.O.B.
Listen, we know that as a small business owner, you are working hard on the daily to keep your business fully operational while trying to promote it. And while some days it may feel like the business is owning you, if we're being honest with each other, I bet you would admit that you wouldn't give up the insanity for anything.
Our commitment here at the S.O.B Marketing Podcast is to give you the real talk, what works when it comes to advertising, marketing, promoting your business, and then what doesn't really work.
And Chelsea and I promise to always keep the conversation real. Welcome back to another episode of the S.O.B Marketing Podcast. S.O.B as in small owned business, not son of a bleep. So Chelsea, pretty exciting, but I was looking at our YouTube channel the other day and we have over 250 marketing videos uploaded on there. Can you believe that?
That's insane. Wow. And that's all you, because you do our long form videos. So kudos to you.
Well, I mean, you have been in one video, and we hope to open that up here more in the coming year to where maybe you and I can tag team that a little better. But I'll tell you what, and with that, so not only are we doing YouTube videos, we're also showing up on Instagram Reels, and we're now doing this video podcast. And so I think I bring this up because what I think would be useful to small business owners would be for us to give them some tips about how to show up and how to kind of break down that barrier. If you want to show up on video, but you are just hesitant and you don't know why, maybe you do know why, or maybe it just seems like it's a really big hassle and you're not ready to take that on. Chelsea and I want to give you some tips today to help shift some of that mindset. So Chelsea, I know you definitely have some things you want to share.
I do. As our social media person, I'm the one who works on our Instagram Reels and our TikToks and all that stuff. As an introvert, it's been very interesting forcing myself to be behind the camera. And I think that's why I feel comfortable telling small business owners, just do it.
Being in front of the camera, not behind it. I mean, you're both behind it and in front of it because you're doing
That's true. Oh, did I say behind it?
You did, but you're doing both. I mean, you're doing editing and you're doing the front facing showing up. So you're definitely spot on. And I think that's the thing. And the other thing that I feel you have a very good advantage or a perspective on is you actually do this for our social media clients that we have as well.
Yes.
So when you go out there, you are giving them tips along the way, and you see people that range from being super comfortable in front of the camera, and then people that range to, just not wanting to do it, and you're practically having to force them, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I love working with some of our clients. We've been working with some of them for a couple of years now, and just watching that growth. For example, Bray, Brazilian Wax and Spa in downtown Somerville, when we first started doing her social media, I mean, she was not very comfortable being in front of the camera, and it took a lot of takes, a lot of tries, here's what I want you to say. But now when I do like our monthly meetings, I say, hey, here's an idea. She goes, I love it. And she does it. I mean, she's
like, let's do it.
Yes, she's gotten so comfortable in front of the camera. And I think really for small business owners, you need to remember we had a whole conversation about consistency. Just doing it. Just get in front of the camera and continue to do your best, and you're going to get better.
It's really interesting how that works. we understand it in other areas of our life, right? So we understand that eating healthier gets easier with consistency and us just doing it repetitively, right? Like over time, your taste will change because, I mean, and I can tell you from someone who used to drink Coca-Cola all the time, and then suddenly I was like, you know what? That's not a good habit. I'm not going to do that. And now I drink a Coke and it's not the same satisfaction. Like my taste buds, I feel like, have changed, right? So we know in other areas, same thing with working out. You were doing, what was it? Was it P90X?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember when you first started, you were like, I hate blah, blah, blah. And then over time, I didn't hear that as much. Then you were, I mean, not that you were,
Oh, that's
waking
because
up
you kept
super
telling
excited to
me,
do it.
you were like, oh, you'll get used to it. So I just stopped complaining to you. It did not get easier. It's P90X. It was awful.
But that's the thing, is like your body does over time condition itself to just, your level of being able to do harder things just increases because you're consistent with it. And I think that's, to me, it's a mindset shift that over time, like you're saying with Bray. Tell me, what do you think at the beginning was probably her biggest holdup with not wanting, well, with having to, with it being difficult to show up on camera? What was, do you think, going on in her mind?
And I feel like this is true for almost everyone. You don't want to look silly. You want to look very
Right.
nice and polished, and you don't want to sound like you don't know what you're talking about. So you want it to be very scripted and you want it to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. And let's think about why we're creating these videos. So, the point of video content and social media marketing is to create a community and to connect with your target audience. No one wants to
Right.
see a scripted, polished video. It's just going to feel like an ad. So that's what I try to
You
explain to all of my clients. Like, just be yourself in front of the camera. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be authentic.
you know what I heard recently that really, I
Mm.
think, did it for me? I was like, that is the perfect analogy. They said, for script writers, people who are writing movie scripts, the one thing they will always tell you is the easiest way to get the audience to not like somebody is to make them perfect, because they
Mm-hmm.
can't relate to that, right? So, and think of
Exactly.
every movie you've ever watched, right? Every
Mm-hmm.
movie you've ever watched has a protagonist who, at the end of the day, they have flaws, and you start
Mm-hmm.
to identify as them, and you're like,
Yeah.
gosh, well, like, I know what that feels like because that's me. So, to your point, maybe I think for small business owners, it's even more so what you're saying.
Yeah.
We don't want to look silly because we want to be
Mm-hmm.
taken seriously, and we want
Yeah.
people, we don't want that to be a bad reflection on our business, right? And so we think,
Mm-hmm.
what if I don't nail it on video? What if I mess up? What if I say too much? What if my hair doesn't look right? My makeup's not on point?
Yeah.
What are people going to think about my business if
Yeah.
I'm not showing up that way? But the flip side of it, like you're saying, is people want to know you as a
Mm-hmm.
small business owner, and they want to be able to see you for what you are authentically.
Exactly. And you know what? If you're not creating this video content, then people just won't be thinking about you at all.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and let's also talk about how businesses nowadays, back in the day before social media was so prevalent, we could get away with just placing ads. And so it
Mm-hmm.
was very much this one-way communication, right? Like you're saying,
Yeah.
I'm feeding you ads all day long. So I'm really steering the communication or what you
Yes.
know about my business. People
Mm-hmm.
don't want that anymore. They want a
Yeah.
two-way conversation. They want to be able to
Mm-hmm.
ask questions. They want to be able to get your hot takes on stuff. They want to know from you, as a Brazilian wax business owner, spa business owner,
Mm-hmm.
please tell me, like, is it really as painful as I think it is?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, or give
Yeah.
me tips to, make my first visit less awkward or whatever. They don't just want that ad.
Exactly.
You're right.
And that is going into some tips that I have now. Okay, so number one tip for getting into video content creation: just do it. But let's go into more like specifics and actual physical tips. For one, you do not need expensive equipment. There's no reason. I mean, the video quality and the photo quality on our phones nowadays, you don't need a camera. You can just use your phone,
Especially on
100%.
your phone, girl. That
Oh, thank
iPhone.
you. I
Ooh,
have the iPhone
the first day
14.
you got it, I was, yeah, that iPhone 14, it definitely, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
man, that's the only time I've ever wanted an iPhone because I'm a Droid girl through and through. But I
Yeah.
mean, it's impressive what quality you get. And so, to that
Mm-hmm.
tip, I'm going to throw in there that a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times, and I am guilty of this because it's the easiest thing. We talk about
Mm-hmm.
showing up means making sure you're not creating these barriers for yourself, right? And
Yep.
so for me, I need to be able to just pick up my camera. And we started going live on Instagram recently. I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
make that a habit on every Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So all I do is I use the forward facing camera,
Mm-hmm.
to record that. But actually, another tip would be to use the back camera. So that's the highest
Yep.
quality you're going to get. That forward facing camera that you take selfies with is never going
Mm-hmm.
to be as good as,
The
the
fr-
three cameras on the
yep.
back of my, yeah. So I
Absolutely.
think that's the other thing is,
Mm-hmm.
but so if you can take the phone and, use the back cameras, that will give
Mm-hmm.
you the best quality. So to Chelsea's point, you don't have to go out and buy this expensive equipment. You're carrying it around in your
No.
pocket.
Yeah. And
Now,
if
Chelsea,
you,
I know you also utilize mics.
yeah, well, I was going to say you can also just get a cheaper Bluetooth microphone off of Amazon. I want to
Mhm.
say the mic that I have was $20. It plugs right into the phone, Bluetooth. It's great. You can get a cheaper stand as well if you want a phone stand for shooting video. You don't have to go out and spend like a bunch of money on this kind of stuff.
No,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And your microphone, that lapel mic that you have, that's
Mm-hmm.
Bluetooth, works like a charm. It's actually one of
Yeah.
my favorite mics. It's better than the ones I've bought for sure. And it was cheaper than I think I bought something that was maybe 40, $50 and it still didn't
Mm-hmm.
work as
Yeah.
well. But I
Yeah.
think the stand part, like you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
if you would like to get a ring light, and those
Mm-hmm.
now, the price point on those are really great. The
Yeah.
reason a lot of people do decide to invest in the ring lights is for one, it's a placeholder that will hold your phone. So that way you're not having to hold it or you don't have to
Mm-hmm.
buy a separate tripod for it. But
Mm-hmm.
the other thing is that it also, with the lighting, because sometimes depending on where you're at, and if you're shooting this stuff in your office, maybe your office has overhead lights where it's just
Mm-hmm.
not going to look the best on camera. And so an
Yeah.
inexpensive ring light can help with that. Even if you buy the smallest one that you just set on your tabletop, it will help tremendously, just adding a little more illumination.
Yes, absolutely. So, second tip, you don't need expensive equipment. And just extra tips for when you're shooting content on your phone. If you're shooting it on your phone, put your phone on Do Not Disturb and make sure you have enough storage space. Recently, when we went to the Paramore concert, was it the Paramore concert where
No, it
you
was,
ran out of,
what's his name?
oh,
Mr.
Pitbull?
Worldwide, Pitbull.
Vivian was
I was so
trying
angry, y'all.
Vivian was trying to record video while we were at this concert, and we were like front row right there. Mr. Worldwide was right in front of us, and Vivian did not have any storage space left on her phone.
I was heartbroken, but lesson learned, to Chelsea's point. The thing is, when you guys
Mm-hmm.
are out there creating videos, like if you're going to consistently start to do reels or YouTube or whatever it is, and you're going to be utilizing your phone, just be sure that either you're saving these videos somewhere else on like a Google Drive,
Yep.
or you're moving them elsewhere, right, to something
Mm-hmm.
cloud based. So that way it's not taking up your actual storage space. That's an
Mm-hmm.
amateur issue that I clearly am an amateur because I haven't done it for myself. But one day, Chelsea, I will get on that.
I will say, I kind of do the same thing. After I do it at the end of every week, I try to move everything into their respective folders on our Google Drive, but throughout the week, I just have videos and videos and videos of content.
It
Yeah.
gets, I mean, it gets really crazy, especially if you're doing stuff on, for us, the one thing we always try to do to get more leverage out of our video content is we try to like use one video, splice it up, and then repurpose it on different platforms. And not the exact same across every platform. We do try to tailor it to the platform, but that in turn, like Chelsea says, that means for one video, then we'll have like maybe 5 or 6 subsequent things that we're doing.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
it's pretty crazy.
Well, okay. Let's go into my next tip, which is content. The quality of the video, stuff like that, it's important, but it doesn't need to be perfect. What really matters is your content. What are you sharing in your videos? You need to share content that your audience actually wants to see.
Yeah, so to your point, I think one of the easiest ways to do this is to speak to pain points. And you and I had this conversation a little earlier about something separate, but if you're putting yourself in the shoes of your target audience and you're thinking to yourself, what do I struggle with on a daily basis, or what prevents me from doing X, Y, and Z that then your product and service helps them with, talking to those pain points. A lot of times, in marketing, we have a tendency of wanting to polish up because we're constantly having to create ads and stuff like that. And so we're constantly looking for ways to polish up our verbiage. And I think sometimes that does us a big disservice, right? Instead of us just talking to the pain points, people will focus on the features of their product, but they will never address what issue or what problem their product is solving. And so maybe that's where, like you're saying, if it helps you any, maybe a good place for you to start would be to think, what are 3 big pain points or the biggest pain points that my target audience has, and how does my product and service help that, and how can I put that into a video, right? Like, how can I address it? Maybe it's simply asking a question at the beginning of the video, struggling with X, Y, and Z. Don't have time to X, Y, and Z, whatever. And then you go into your content and you're, talking about your product and service or your business.
Yes. Another really good example is answering common questions that your clients or customers constantly ask you.
Yeah. And the cool thing is, you may already have this outlined on your website through a frequently asked questions page, an FAQ. If you do, take your FAQ and basically you can turn those into individual video content, right? Like Chelsea's saying, except maybe go further into it. So if people have a question about your warranty and you offer a different warranty and you're telling them, hey, we give you 100% money back, no questions asked, put that in a video. Tell them about that, right?
So, important things to remember when you're creating your content. You want to add a call to action. So, saying, follow the link in my bio to purchase this, or even just hit that like button, go ahead and follow us, anything like that. You're asking your audience to do something, so you're calling them to action. So, add a call to action.
Another one that people are doing with call to action nowadays is if you're not wanting to send them to like a website or a link or something like that, in order to get engagement on your videos, you can always say like, comment this word below, or let me know in the comments what you think about X, Y, and Z. And that way it kind of helps for you to, if you're wanting to learn a little more about who your audience is online, or what your target audience is thinking, that's another great call to action that you can add in there.
Yes, that's a good one. Another thing to focus on when you're creating content, keywords. So what keywords are you using? Who are you trying to attract with these keywords? Just keeping in mind your verbiage, really helpful.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to throw this one in there too, not to complicate things, but it's interesting with all this AI technology that's going on. A few years back, because remember, we talked about how many YouTube videos we've done, and I've been doing this since 2017 on YouTube. And so I've seen the subtle and not so subtle changes that they've made to their algorithm and stuff. And what was interesting was last year, they started to introduce this idea where you used to, when you had a YouTube video and you upload the video, you would specifically go and you would type keywords in. Now, I still do that just because it's a habit at this point. So I'm always going to type in those keywords. And what it was supposed to do is they told you that was one of the ways the algorithm would look at what videos to present the person that was searching on YouTube. But they said that keywords were going to be less important. So at this point, I don't think keywords are nearly as important as they once were, but that the actual words you were saying in the first like 10 seconds of the video, the AI technology or the algorithm was going to be able to crawl the video very quickly and pick up those words. So the thing is, if I'm making a video on the YouTube algorithm, if within the first 10 seconds of the video, I'm not saying YouTube algorithm, then my video is less likely to show up as a suggested video. And so it's wild, like you're saying. The thing is, if you think with the keyword ahead of time, then everything you're doing kind of, you cover your bases on all ends, right?
Do you love making crafts and working on your small business but struggle to get them in front of customers?
Do craft fairs, events, or pop-ups leave you feeling overwhelmed or frustrated?
Introducing Rock Your Fair, the course designed to help you succeed in the world of craft fairs, pop-ups, and events, created by 2 marketing professionals with over 15 years of experience. Rock Your Fair is perfect for anyone who's new to the game or just wants to step up their game.
Our step-by-step approach will guide you through everything you need to know, from choosing the right events, to setting up your booth, to marketing your products effectively.
And you know what? You'll also get access to us for personalized coaching and feedback so you can put your best foot forward.
Do not let craft fairs, pop-ups, and events hold you back. Sign up for Rock Your Fair today and start rocking your way to success.
For a limited time, get access to our free mini course. Simply head over to our website at www.theseasonmarketer.com and click on workshops.
My next tip then for this point would be, it can be helpful to create a script. You don't have to, and we're not saying follow it verbatim, because sometimes creating a script can make it feel less authentic and feel kind of robot-y. That's not a word, but you know what I mean.
Which I've been accused of, yeah.
But having maybe like bullet points or an outline can be very helpful, and it can keep you on track with saying those keywords and making your point. That makes sense.
And it doesn't have to, it does make sense. And I think too, there are a couple of factors that you have to be completely honest with yourself about. You have to know how you work best. Okay.
Yeah.
Chelsea is great at doing stuff off the cuff. I am not. She knows this. Like for some reason, sometimes it takes me like 10 times before I finally get something the right way. With her, it's very different. She loves bullet points, and she can just off the cuff talk about something. And it sounds like she's not rehearsed it, but it sounds like she knows exactly what she's talking about. For me, I feel like I have to rehearse it way more. So like Chelsea's saying, an outline of just bullet points and keywords for her works well. For me, I actually need a little more of a script. I need some more verbiage in there so that way I can, look at it and refer back to. And I'll tell you what you start off doing, like you said, with repetition and consistency, what you start off doing, you're going to get more comfortable, and you're probably going to grow out of it at some point. And I'll tell you right now for lives, and it also depends on if you're trying something new or if you've been doing it. I've been doing YouTube for a while. I have scripts. I'm able to pre-record and I edit the videos. Okay. That's very different than me hitting live and going live. And so for lives, what I do is I will we do marketing news, right? Keeping up to date with marketing news. I will do bullet points, marketing news, number 1, number 2, Number 3. And then I write notes in there. I have it printed out in front of me, but you can't see it on camera. I have it printed out in front of me. I don't necessarily read it verbatim. What I'll do though is glance down at it. And that way I have it there if I need to, and if I lose my train of thought, on a live.
That's a great example. Do what works best for you. If you need a script, then just use a script. No one's going to know.
Yeah. And if they do, I mean, honestly, people don't care, y'all. No, they don't. They really, I mean, the thing is, as long as you're showing up and you're showing up authentically, you're giving them either information, and sometimes it doesn't have to be information. It could just be something related to what, you're known for, or, whatever it is.
Well, and that comes to my next 3 tips, my next 3 points, all kind of combined together. So I'm going to say them all at once. Keep the content interesting. You need a hook at the beginning of your video, and try different angles and shots. Okay, so keep the content interesting. Share things that your audience is going to be interested in. Make it fun and make it light. I know, Vivian, you get this a lot. Don't sound robotic, which to me, I don't think you sound robotic, but what do I know?
I do sound like a robot at times. That's just how I am.
Okay, so keep content interesting. You need a hook for the beginning. I've done a lot of Instagram reels and short form videos about this, but a lot of people have really short attention spans. That, me included. You have to get my attention real quick. So at the beginning of your video, you need to say something that's going to bring people in and want to actually watch your video.
I think that's the hardest part of the video stuff. Is not the easy part, is deciding to show up. Okay, so once y'all make that decision, I mean, easy peasy from there. The rest of it is the thing is deciding to show up. Then the other part is, like she's saying, with this content, thinking about what the content is going to be. And here's the thing is, you're going to grow into it. At first, you're going to look at your first couple of reels or your first couple of YouTube videos or whatever it is, lives, and you're going to say, man, I missed an opportunity to do a call to action. I missed an opportunity to do a good hook. But here's the thing is, be a student. Yep. So that way you're, the next video will be just 10% better, right? And then you won't forget the call to action, and you won't forget to do the hook. I think that's the hardest part of that video. And sometimes, y'all, just doing a few crappy videos first is what you need to just kind of start to feel a little more comfortable in your skin with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then try different angles and shots. This comes back to people having short attention spans. And I actually related, also not related. I saw a video.
Here it is.
I saw a video of a comic online, and he was saying it's so hard to get Gen Z's attention. I'm going to start talking, but then in the background have one of those temple run videos of the person playing the video game, and he's just going to be kind of like the voiceover so he can get their attention. Yeah.
I've also seen a comedian do the same bit, except the punchline was something about, what was it? It's so hard to get their attention or something, that they're like, once the world goes to crap or something, it won't be hard to overthrow them or something like that. I forget. So I messed that one up. It wasn't the same. I don't think it was the same joke. Maybe I'm really bad at telling stories and telling jokes. I can't get a handle on it. I don't know why. I once told one of my college buddies, and Alex and I, my husband and I, went out to eat with them. And I remember telling my college buddy a story, and he looked at me 10 minutes later, after I've told him the story, and he looks at me and he goes, "Was that your story?" He was so confused. Was that the end? I need to do better.
Okay, well, the point is doing shooting different angles and getting different shots is going to move your video, and it's going to recapture someone's attention every time that it changes.
The other way to effectively do this, Chelsea, because if you're thinking, well, I only have one camera, I'm not going to set up like, three different cameras and say the same thing and all this stuff, right? It seems a little complicated. Use what they call B-roll. And B-roll could be anything. I do this quite a bit. If I'm out, we have a little beach that's nearby here. Whenever I drive by, I get out of the car and I literally will like shoot like 10 seconds of a video just because I like the scenery, right? I'll do the same thing around the property. Yeah, so any of those types of videos that you're taking just on a whim, you can utilize those to clip, right? So go from being on screen, and then say if you're talking about your soaps and how you package them or anything, just use that as B-roll, and you could do the voiceover. And it's pretty easy with these apps now to be able to do that. And so that way, like you're saying, Chelsea, it's breaking up the scenery within the video. So that way it's not boring and monotonous, but it's giving them a change of scene.
Yes, absolutely. And so since you brought it up, also, if you don't want to be in front of the camera, that's okay. I mean, just focus on videos focusing on your products or maybe your customers. Now, always make sure that you get consent to share photos or videos of your customers. But if they say it's okay, then sharing videos of your customers, that's a great thing to do if you don't want to be in front of the camera. However, again, social media is a tool to bring you closer to your target audience and to create a relationship with them. This is much easier when you share your face with them. So we suggest being in front of the camera. I know it sounds scary, but just getting in front of that camera, best thing you can do. But if you really, really, really don't feel comfortable doing it, you can focus your videos on something else. You can use B-roll, all that stuff.
Yes, baby steps are still steps. So if you have not done any video content and you're wanting to, but you're not quite prepared to take that leap to show your face on camera or start talking on camera, then do what Chelsea's telling you to do. Canva is a great tool where you could go on there and you could create videos of whatever format, whether it's horizontal or vertical, and you can find stock B-roll images that you can utilize or film video. So I think that's where, be resourceful. And there are tools out there that can help you take that baby step, and then they'll get you a little more comfortable with video, and then you can go ahead and take the leap into being in front of the camera.
I think my last tip, and probably really important one, you are your worst critic. You're going to feel silly, but you're doing great.
Well, let me ask you this, Chelsea, because I'm curious, because you do it so much for the clients. Now, on the client's end, you're on the back end, but you're supporting them, right? And so you're giving them tips, words of advice, pointers. Does it still feel weird to you when you show up in front of the camera, or have you gotten over that hump?
Oh my gosh, no. It still feels very weird.
Yeah,
it's very strange.
Chelsea's doing it day in and day out.
I like to shoot some of my video outside because I have a nice big backyard.
Oh, yes.
Sometimes my neighbors come home and I'm outside, and I've created some kind of wacky videos before of me doing kind of silly stuff. And I am sure that they are so confused as to what my job is, because I work from home.
Like, does that girl have a job?
Well, that too. They're probably
is she an influencer?
Is she trying to be an influencer? I'm out here. Or sometimes I'll shoot photos or videos for our clients for products. So there have been times where I've gone outside with a boiling pot, like kettle, and I'm making tea, but I'm recording it the entire time. And they were outside while I was creating that video. So I'm sure they're so confused about what I do.
They're probably
I still...
They're probably like, she's not even drinking that tea. It's so hot.
True.
It's
I
90
didn't even
degrees
drink
out
it.
here. Well, and I will say this and take it from someone. All right. When I started creating video content in 2017, I remember the first couple of videos I uploaded, my friends were like, what? The videos weren't very good. So, which is probably why they were like, oh my gosh, like she's embarrassing herself, right? But also, I think you do think about family, right? So like mom, dad, and then I'm married. So my husband, so I was pretty upfront early on. And I think this helps with it where I told my husband, I'm like, look, I want to start creating videos consistently on a weekly basis, which means that over the weekend, because I do have a full-time job, on the weekend, I'm going to take time to actually do this. So like when I come down and ask you to be quiet for a little bit because the mic will pick sounds up or whatever, you have to get the other person on board. So if you're, and I think what that does is eventually it gives you the freedom to be awkward about it and be fine. Because if I did not explain that to my husband up front, there was one video where I was shooting B-roll of like the inside of our fridge. Okay. Because I was talking about like leftover spinach that you leave in there too long, right? I was using that as an analogy. Had I not told him that, he would have been like, what the heck are you doing? Right. So I think it just helps with, like you're saying, if you have a tendency of getting embarrassed about stuff like that, which some people do, then explaining sometimes what you're doing just kind of helps to make it not awkward, because you're like, hey, I'm shooting this for an Instagram reel, or hey, I'm doing X, Y, and Z, which you don't even have to do that. But if it makes you feel better.
It still is a strange experience. So we get it. We know being in front of the camera is kind of weird, but just going for it and just creating content. I mean, that's the first step, is saying that you're going to do it.
And if I can offer any perspective, over 200 videos on YouTube, filming, editing, doing all that stuff. When I started doing lives, just a couple, maybe I think we're in month 2 of it, still very early on. The first time I was hitting record on it, I still had sweaty palms. And I have these conversations with myself where I'm like, what? Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? Your phone's going to fall over. Someone's going to see up your nose. But that's the thing, is no matter how many times you do it, you're always going to feel weird. And you'll just move that needle, right? So you'll get comfortable doing X, Y, and Z. And then as you add on to it, then it's going to feel uncomfortable again. So just be okay with it. I think the best thing to do is actually videotape through it, right? So Chelsea and I have this workflow thing where when her and I are shooting content together, we both know, because we do it consistently, we both know whenever maybe the other person has messed up, but we'll continue shooting that clip knowing that we can just later splice that part of it out if we have to, and then we'll redo it again. So she'll look at me and she'll be like, do you want to do another take of that? And I'm like, yeah, let's do another take. If anything, that gives her, who's editing the video, more footage to be able to work with, right? So if she says, I'll take this part of this video and this part of this video and clip it together, then that works. So no, you don't have to get stuff in one take. Very rarely, unless you're on a live, which then that's a little different of a setting, but you don't have to get stuff in one take. And I think once you understand that and you've done it a couple times, you're like, well, I'll just keep talking. So I do want to round out this podcast with, I think, the biggest thing, which is, if you haven't started creating video content, but you want to, one of the best things that you can do is to simply just keep the format easy. All right. So listen to some of those tips Chelsea had, as far as the equipment you can use, what you want to include in the video. If you focus on that and you keep your format very simple, it helps. I know that it looks really nice when everyone's doing these podcasts and they have nice lighting and they have this and that, and they have, that's all fine and dandy. They're also spending a pretty penny on all that stuff, okay? If
Yeah.
that's not in your budget and you don't have the space or the resources to be able to do that, you're doing a disservice to people who could be looking for what you're selling or looking for your business or interested in it. You're doing a disservice to them by not showing up today the way you can today, right? So quit putting it off. Keep your format very easy and just make a commitment. You know what? I'm going to start doing reels. I'm going to start doing a reel once a week, right? And that way you get in the habit of it. And over time, Chelsea's probably going to tell you, over time, once you figure out that you can have fun with it and you get like decent at it, you're like, oh, well, I could create like 2 or 3 of these, 3 of these in a week, and it's nothing.
Okay, well, I think we've made our point. If you are a small business owner that is not creating short form videos like Instagram, Reels, or TikToks, go ahead and start doing it. We have faith in you. You'll do great. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Your support really means a lot to us, as we are trying to support you and give you as much information about marketing as possible to help you grow your small business. So go ahead, subscribe, follow us, all of that good stuff. We're under The Seasoned Marketer on social media. This is the S.O.B Marketing Podcast, S.O.B for small owned business. And we really hope this helped you guys go out there and be the best S.O.B you can be.